Jackie Tantillo with you. Welcome to another edition of Should Have Listened to My Mother. Typically, not many people wind up working in the field of which they've gotten their college degree. Today's guest is one who did just that. We're rare, but we do exist. My guest studied marketing in college, a Division I school, Fairleigh Dickinson in New Jersey. He has actually been in the field for many, many years. He started out taking jobs for nothing, as he told me recently, which is fun when you think back, how we all got our beginnings. And currently, my guest is the head of media, the digital department at Beacon Media Group in New Jersey, where they specialize, and get a load of this, in the youth media marketing. They offer media planning and media buying for children 13 and under. So all those cool things for kids. My guest, Mike Pierre, is involved with placement and all that kind of cool stuff, whether you love those commercials or hate them, but they certainly come in handy when we have to find out what our kids like. Welcome to Should Have Listened to My Mother, Mike.
Well, thank you, Jackie.
It's a pleasure to actually have these couple of minutes to sit and talk with you, because we're usually out at a baseball field or a fundraiser or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Our boys played baseball, varsity baseball, through high school together, and it's kind of nice to get to know the other side, the other hat that we often wear as parents, not just our mom or dad hat. So you have a really interesting background, and this is going to be kind of cool to share with everybody because it's kind of unique, and a lot of it of which I did not know. So I'll be finding out new things as we go along as well. And that's the objective of Should Have Listened to My Mother. Are we who we are today because of, in spite of, or both? You know, what kind of influence did our mom have on us? Can you tell me your mom's name, please?
Yes, my mom's name is Margarite Noel Pierre.
And where did your mom hail from?
She hails from a very small village in Haiti called Pomagua. Pomagua, Haiti. So yes, she's born and raised in Haiti and came over here when she was around 32 years old.
And you have one sibling, correct? An older brother?
Yes, one older brother.
There's that part of your life, and then there's the other part of your life that I've been learning more and more about, of you, and quite the athlete that you were, wound up committing to a Division I college in New Jersey, as I mentioned earlier, Fairleigh Dickinson, and you played not only one sport, but two sports.
Correct. And it was really my freshman year was football and baseball, and then I realized it was just a little too much, so I just concentrated on football the rest of my time in college.
And how long had you been playing football and baseball, or sports in general? Did you start in T-ball?
Yeah, I started, well, actually not even T-ball. It started a little later because, again, this sort of ties into the whole having, parents that are from another country, so I didn't really know about sports. It was just a friend one day said, hey, my dad's coaching, do you want to play baseball? And I started probably when I was probably 9 is when I started playing. And so, started playing baseball all the way through, but didn't start playing football until I got to high school.
And there are quite a few successful baseball players from the Dominican Republic.
Yeah, Dominican, well, probably more from the Dominican Republic. Yeah. Yes, the Haitians, they love their soccer. They're more of their football, soccer, depending on what you want to call it. But yeah.
By the time you started playing at 9, you knew what American baseball was.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up sort of playing with football and everything, and the first baseball game I ever went to was when I was 6. It was a Yankee game, so I was a Yankee fan since then. I knew baseball. I just hadn't played organized baseball until, my friend just sort of asked me, and then, just went from there.
Your older son, is now at St. John's on a scholarship for baseball, and he has also followed in your footsteps, baseball and football. And he is very slender and slight, and yet fast as lightning, can hit like crazy, and let alone just so talented. And I never saw him play football, but I know that he did. But he's a fantastic baseball player. Did you have that same body type as your older son, as Christian?
I did. I would say it was probably a little, well, actually I just saw him the other day, so he's getting there. So I think I was probably a little bigger than him, but not much. it was just as I just got older, it was just more because I concentrated more on football when I got into college. It was more of a lifting program, so there was a lot more weight. Although now, obviously, baseball is, just as athletic, and they emphasize, weightlifting and everything just as much. But I would just say, I was probably a little bigger. He is definitely a lot slender, and hopefully he'll stay that way and not sort of go daddy body at some point. So.
He's got time. He's still young. I mean,
Yeah,
they don't want you to build your body up too much in high school. This is when they're going to really start building up. And yet you were playing these two sports, and you concentrated on marketing through 4 years of college. You did undergraduate, not graduate work.
I did. But the one thing I didn't get to tell you is that I know you did mention, but I didn't start off as a marketing person. I actually started off.
Tell me, be honest.
I actually started off as a marine biology major.
No way! That's awesome.
I did, and I just, in full transparency, that's what I wanted to do, and at the college, and then just was not very good at it. And I don't know if it was a combination of figuring out what I would be good at, but had a heart-to-heart talk with my administrator, and I was just like, this might not be the best for you. So then switched over to marketing, probably around sometime in my end of my sophomore year.
Well, all these kids feel so much pressure to commit to a department or a school, a degree, and what do you know? Your first year is so encompassing, and you have so much to learn. It's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so you go through college, and then you're saying, I got to go out into the world. Did you go live at home again?
I did. I did for, I think it was just about 2 years. I was at home because I couldn't get a marketing job or anything right away. So I had worked at a hotel, Hamilton Park, which is right across the street, or right across the parking lot from Bailey Dickinson, where I went to school. And so they had a sister hotel in Connecticut. So I ended up transferring there for a little bit, working in their gym down, and just did that until I finally got an actual job in the city. And I did that commute for about 2.5 years. So I was home for about 2.5 years, and then finally found some roommates and moved into Hoboken, and the rest is history.
What was it like, because our sons are in their first year of college, what was it like going home? You were living at home after you graduated.
Yeah, it had its ups and its downs. It's a give and take. You got to save some money, but I was also commuting from New Haven, Connecticut into Manhattan, which was about a 2.5-hour commute each way. So I did. So there wasn't a lot of time to do a lot. So it just got to be, living at home was great, but then that commute was just a nightmare. And so it's just time to, finally just move out.
Yeah. Your mom, as you mentioned, is from Haiti. How about your dad?
Yep, he is from Haiti as well. Both parents born and raised, so I am 100% Haitian.
And you were born in the States, but your parents, did they speak Creole or French at home?
Yes. Yeah, they spoke Creole at home. It was an interesting thing because I always kind of yell at my parents for this, for not teaching us Creole as much as they could have. So they wanted us to know English and learn English since we were in the United States. So they only spoke Creole to each other and a little bit to us. So I can understand it well. I just can't speak it as well.
They took the lead in you assimilating and becoming a true American and not...
Yes, 100%.
Ah, interesting. And is Pierre your full last name, or is there some French part that's been pulled?
There's some French. So my official name is Michel Jean-Pierre Jr.
Oh my gosh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, that's what everyone says, except for when you're a 10-year-old boy, you really don't want to be called Michel. So
no one would have gotten it.
Yeah, I think times may have changed, but the whole Michel thing and teasing, so they just decided to call me Michael, and that's what I've been. I actually at one point tried to go by Michel, and my friends were like, we're not calling you Michel.
So what's on your birth certificate?
It's Michel. It's Michel Jean-Pierre.
Oh, that's such a beautiful name, but I totally get it. It's hard.
It was. It would be nice to go back to it, but I've assimilated to my old.
Your mom, she worked. Your
She,
mom was working
she
a lot.
was. She worked a lot of hours. It's pretty crazy how many hours she worked. She worked at Yale New Haven Hospital. Worked there. Was her one and only job as outside of her full-time job. She picked up little part-time jobs here or there to help make ends meet, but that was the career she had there for 28 years.
What is her background? Did she go to school for nursing, or what did she do at the hospital?
She was just in housekeeping. She just worked there and just worked hours and hours. She just, when she came to the United States, she didn't know any English or anything. So, it was just the job that she could get, and, but just worked at it. And she worked a lot of hours.
So what year was this that they came to the U.S.? Your mom and dad came together, or did she come before she was married?
No, my mom actually came first and then brought my dad over. Yeah, I have to backtrack because I know she had me when she was 38. Yeah, that was about it. Yeah, 30, so she probably came here around 60.
And she left her family in Haiti? Her parents?
She did. She only had my grandmother. My grandfather had passed away a long time before that. My mom is the second oldest of 11.
The second oldest of 11. Do you know what the boy-girl ratio is?
I believe it was 5 girls, 6 boys.
Wow, that is crazy cool. So can you do a Creole English accent if you tried?
It's like my dad just has the heavier accent. My mom has the accent, and when you hear it, it's just not as heavy, so I'm just better prepared to do his voice.
Okay.
Oh, do you want me to do it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What he would do, he would just go, Michael, it's time to go to bed. I told you 3 times, go to bed. Oh, that's my dad.
Oh my gosh, how fun. And then they would chit-chat in Creole thinking you wouldn't understand, or you kind of sort of understood, or you weren't paying attention.
Yeah, I think it was just more of when they conversed with each other, they would, any time they would have any major conversation, it would just be in Creole. I mean, they speak English pretty fluently.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, I just think when they just felt more comfortable when there was any conversation, because anytime my, aunts or uncles were over, it was usually all Creole.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. So that's why I can understand it more than I can speak it.
Yeah, I totally understand that. Similar situation. I'm Italian, but my dad had to go to Europe and for a job, and they lived in Spain for 5 years. So the last 3 of the 7 kids were born either in Gibraltar or in Spain. So when we came back, our mom used to get the little chalkboard out in the kitchen and teach us the conjugating of Spanish verbs into English, and I had no idea what she was talking about, but my ear... It's like, what's second person, first person singular?
Right. Wow.
But she really wanted us to be fluent in Spanish. And it's the same thing. I have a pretty good ear for it, but not as fluid when I try and speak it. But,
right.
That was my bad.
I did not know that about you. So there you go.
What did your dad do for a profession?
He worked at University of New Haven for 33 years.
Doing what?
He just started off as a janitor for the most part, custodial, and then by the time he retired, he was head of all. I guess he was the head of facilities for the University of New Haven.
Oh my gosh, that is so fascinating. They worked really hard. How cool is that? Could he have taken classes?
You know what? I just don't know. I think they were just more like, okay, we're just, we're going to put our heads down and just work.
Yeah.
We're just,
we're working and taking care of our family.
Folks. Yeah, just working hours and hours. And, that's the one thing I always do remember. One of our Little League fields, the Little League field that we played on, was kind of right by the highway. And the only time my dad could stop and watch us play was, because he would work on Saturdays, is he would stop for a little bit on his way to work on the highway and watch us and then kind of wave and then drive off.
Oh, how cool. Did he play ball or soccer or anything when he was a kid?
When he was little, yeah, he played the soccer, but not a ton. He went through. I think he was a little more in terms of going through educated than my mom was. He made it, I think, into like first or second year of college, but he sort of had a harder life because he lost both parents by the time he was 12.
Oh my gosh, that's terrible.
Yeah, so in that case, I only knew my one grandparent, and it was my mom's mom, and that was it.
Oh, and your mom, tell us how old she's going to be.
My mom will be 90 this year on Christmas Day.
Every year, Christmas Day, it's her birthday.
Christmas Day, yep, exactly.
That is so neat. And you said she's still pretty active.
Yeah, she is. When weather permits, she walks around 2 to 3 miles a day. Just goes out and goes for a walk. Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
What do you attribute her health and longevity to?
I think just stubbornness. She's a stubborn woman. And it's funny because when you look at her, you would never think that she is, going to be 90. But I don't know, because I don't know if it's here because there's only out of the 11 of her siblings, there's only, I think there's 4 that are still alive, 5 that are still alive, and that's it.
Oh boy. Who was the disciplinarian in your household growing up?
Oh, I think they both were. I think it's kind of the old thing. They both were disciplinarians, but you kind of feared my dad a little more than my mom.
Like same thing in my house.
Yeah, exactly.
Watch out.
Yeah, they both had their moments and they both had fun, but yeah, sort of feared my dad a lot more, which is kind of funny now. You can't really look at him, and I think my dad is only 5'6".
Oh,
so
he probably...
when we were little, I was like, oh my God, he's so huge, and then I was like, wait a minute, he's not that big at all.
Well, he probably got a little smaller.
Yeah, also true. Exactly.
Oh, we just got taller. And so if your mom and if they were both working so much, were you guys left to your own devices after school and everything?
Yeah, we were the cliche, we were latchkey kids. We had our keys, and after school, we'd just come home and, to a certain point when we were, I remember as early as 3rd grade, we would just have keys and just walk home because luckily where we lived, all of the schools were pretty much within 2 blocks. From, my grade school, the middle school, the high school were all 2 blocks from the house. So everything was just kind of, here's the key, and walk home and go home.
Your brother was always with you, or you could go home by yourself in 3rd grade?
No, I would go home by myself for the most part. And, he did the same.
Was there always amazing food in your house? Did your mom cook, mom and dad cook?
My mom cooked, and that's sort of a funny thing. You sort of, I guess, learn to appreciate it because she cooked very ethnic Haitian food, and I was not a big fan initially. I've grown to love it a little more, but yeah, there was always food in the house, but not, food. I think I went a little more American by then. So, there's always, I could make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or, make a grilled cheese sandwich or something like that. But there's always a snack or something to have until, my mom got home or dad got home from work.
Today, what are some of your favorite Creole Haitian meals? Do you have a favorite?
Well, yeah, my mom makes this, it's kind of weird because it's almost like a traditional American food, but it's with sort of a Haitian flavor. So she makes this sort of spicy, I call it a sort of like a Haitian meatloaf, but the way she makes her sauce and beans, it's kind of what kind of puts a total spin on it. So it's that, and she, fried plantains are a big part of the Haitian culture, and rice and beans are as well. So she'll always have. So those are probably my 2. When I go home, she has to make her meatloaf, and she has to make her rice and beans with chicken. It used to be a lot of goat and lamb, and I just was like, yeah, not really there. So
does she still cook with goat and lamb now?
Yeah, she does. Yeah, more for my father, and it's the traditional. There's been pig's feet, and there's been stuff, and yeah, there's just stuff for him. Just like as a young, boy, you're like, okay, not going to touch.
Yeah,
that.
My grandmother had the jar with the pig feet She'd make
Yeah.
some sauce or something, and her food was absolutely delicious. But yeah, I get it. Oh, the stuff that they used to make us eat, and we had to. I had to clean my plate. Of course, I sat in between my parents at the table, the nine
Yeah.
of us. Do you know what the predominant spices are in Haitian food? I'm just curious.
I mean, it's definitely a lot of garlic. I mean, she uses a lot of fresh garlic. And I would say if there's anything, it's not curry. She definitely, I just probably think it's just more garlicky than anything. I mean, it's butter
Interesting.
garlic, it's heavy pepper, little salt. I don't think there's anything specific.
Exotic.
And I might be missing a lot because my mom did the cooking. So
And what were holidays like at your house?
pretty, it was kind of small. For the most part, it was just immediate, just us for the most part, for like Christmas. But Thanksgiving, we would always go to my aunt's house or uncle's house. So my mom's brother and sister were nearby. So I grew up very close to some of my cousins. So on that side, so it was that group of us that always were together for the most part.
And the same thing with all the cousins. Did you all kind of set the cultural stuff aside and want to be pure Americans?
Because we were all first generation. I think my one cousin, she's probably the one who is Americanized, who was born here. Probably speaks the most Creole because her mom does talk Creole to her a lot, so she does speak. But so it's probably all of us. But then as we got older, the one thing that my mom is kind of known for in our family is she brought over a lot of her brother and sisters and their kids. So a lot of my cousins are here because my mom kind of brought them over.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, so, and I have two very close cousins who actually her sister who passed away, my mom took them in and so brought them over. So I grew up with them, so I'm very close to them as well.
And does anybody go back to Haiti still to see family or?
Well, we don't have a ton of family there, but my cousins do go back. I have one cousin that goes back a lot because he's sort of building a retirement vacation kind of home there, so he goes back a lot with another cousin. So they go back and forth. They've found, and they are born and raised there for the most part, so they also have accents and they speak Creole fluently. So they go and they've found a very nice nightlife, I guess, and they go and do their partying and then retire. So they have a good time.
I bet they do. And you've been to Haiti.
Yeah, the last time I was in Haiti was when I was 13, and unfortunately I just have never been able to go back. Something I would love to do, but as you know, there was a lot of years where it was not safe to go back, and I think now it's definitely the opposite, especially with all of the natural disaster that's happened over there, and people have gone back to try and help. But they do have some places that are actually very safe and very tourist friendly to go to.
Yeah, and a lot of kids from our community here in New Jersey, the churches go and do help with all the relief effort and all that kind of stuff.
Right, exactly. So it's really safe, and hopefully at some point I'd love to go back and take the boys back at least one time.
Give me a couple of words, please, that describe your mom, who she was or is.
My mom is a very strong, very stubborn, very hardworking, giving person.
When she is having a good time, how does she express herself? I mean, do they listen to their music from Haiti? Does she laugh a lot? Can you hear her voice saying certain expressions? Like, how do you know that when your mom is happy?
I think she laughs a lot. I think that's one thing I try and do, and I know that I can do.
You can make her laugh?
I can make her laugh, and and the crazy thing about it is Aiden being my younger son is exactly like me, is that we just sort of joke around, and probably to some people is a little too much, but, and I do that with my mom. I do joke around and do things with her that'll just sort of either surprise her or scare her, but make her laugh, and, I will not tell her that I'm coming to visit, and I'll just sort of go in, and I'll just sort of sit there, standing right behind her until she finally realizes it. And, she'll kind of freak out and scream and then laugh. And, it's just...
Pretend she's mad at you, and then she hugs
Right.
and kisses you to death.
Right, exactly. But I think that's the one thing that when she does. And the one thing I will say, too, she is very, very religious. So the only other thing that she tends to do if she's not exercising or cooking is she'll be reading her Bible.
I like her even more. That's pretty cool. It's such a cool thing, I've talked about this for so many years. It's free. It's not addictive. I mean, some people get a little kooky about it. And it can only help you. It's a positive influence. So if someone decides to go that direction, have at it. My mom totally inspired us and motivated us and turned us on to all the positive aspects of what is out there and the power and the strength that it can give you,
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and so she's a big believer, and so so any religious beliefs or anything I have definitely started with her.
Was she the one that oversaw your homework and room was tidy? Did you guys have chores to do while they were working? What happened?
Yeah.
Or did you just have a free-for-all?
Well, it was kind of a little bit of both. They weren't as involved in homework and everything, but we had chores. There were specific things that had to be done. Beds had to be made every morning. Every Sunday after church was cleanup day, so that was when everything had to be cleaned. Vacuum, laundry down to wherever it had to go. Everything spotless. Like, we couldn't do anything until those rooms were clean. And in terms of, we didn't have specific chores. It was just, certain things that had to be maintained and sort of done. So the rooms never got too messy because it's just, that was just not allowed. The beds had to be made every morning after we, got up. There was no just, I can attest to my boys, you just can't leave your bed and never make it and then just throw stuff on the floor.
Oh, my gosh. How did things get so completely out of control these days?
Yeah, it's insane. It's amazing. But, yeah, that would never fly with my mom.
Did you also work with your dad outside? Like, did you have to cut the grass?
Oh, it was funny. I mean, I always wanted to, but he would never let us he would never let us.
Why not?
It's kind of crazy. I don't know. I don't know if he just thought we would mess it up or just that he would always cut the grass and, trim the hedges and everything. We would always ask. I mean, we would go out and help shovel, but like any normal maintenance, he just would never let us touch the tools until we got older. And, I can't even remember when we got older. I don't think I ever did it. At that point, he just, I was off to college and he had somebody he was either doing it or he was paying somebody to do it.
Are you handy? Do you do everything yourself? Or obviously you work a lot too, but...
Yeah, I am quite handy. Yes, I do all of my own lawn care and everything. So I have somewhat of I'll call it a light green thumb. I can take care of these, the mild things. Anything that's going to cause major damage or anything, I will not touch. But outside of that, I'll call myself somewhat handy.
So you learn through osmosis.
Yeah, exactly. That and trial and error. So, there are a lot of trips to Home Depot to make up for the mistakes that I made.
That's how you learn, right?
Exactly.
Was your house the kind of house where your buddies would come and hang out?
Yes and no. No, only because we grew up in a two-family home. So what happened most of the time when I grew up is the first floor my parents rented out, and then we lived on the second and third floor. And so there was really no place to go to hang out at our house. So it was usually, and it's funny that I know nowadays it seems like everyone goes to everyone's house. But I think we were always outside somewhere because the friends that I hung out with, we each didn't really have the hangout or go-to house, so we were usually outside somewhere or someplace where we would go to hang out.
We were always outside. Outside. It was the funnest place to be. Why would you want to be inside?
And we didn't really have the little hangout house because it just was, like you said, because we were always outside.
And we somehow knew when to come home for dinner.
Right. Right, exactly. It would just be, it'd be dark out, and you're like, oh, yeah, I guess we gotta go. But, yeah, always outside.
And you had your school was nearby, so many friends were in close proximity to you. Did you walk to school with friends?
Yeah, I was always, I was kind of the last one on the stop, so I would just sort of hear the doorbell ring, and then there was just like a couple of, like 3 of my closest friends that we would all, the 4 of us would walk, and I mean, it was only a 2-block walk once they picked me up, but the other ones were, 4 blocks away or 5 blocks away, so everybody was pretty close.
Are you close with any of these kids that you grew up with?
Yep, I am still close with 2 of the 3 that were kind of, who I hung out with all the way through high school, so they're still 2 of my best friends. We were in each other's weddings. We're godparents to each of our kids kind of thing, so, and on the side note, one of my best friends, his goddaughter is living with me now for the time being, because she just got a job in the city.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Yeah, so she was trying to get herself up and on the feet, and it was just easier to live here than at home, only because of the same thing in the commute. It would have been even a farther commute that I had when I was living at home in New Haven.
Oh, you're a sweetheart.
So yeah, so those guys, yeah, it is, but those guys are still very close. I'm still very close to them, which is great.
Did you ever see your mom vulnerable?
Did I ever see her vulnerable?
Because you talk about how stubborn she is and how tough she is. Did you ever see her emotional, or when she maybe she was caught off guard?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just with life in general. She, for the most part, I think had a tough life only because, I mean, everything was just work. They didn't really enjoy, get to just sort of sit back and enjoy a lot. They either were working or they were resting. It wasn't a lot of, like, go out and do things at night. So I think it was just, when life would just hit her, and I think a lot of it was, losing her, siblings over the years. And then, I think probably the worst was when, found out that my grandmother passed away. That was, it's hard. And then just, I think, life with, struggles with, my brother having some struggles and just, knowing that even at 90, she's still a mom and still trying to help and be a mom where, at some point you would hope that she would just sort of try and take care of herself, but she's still trying to help other people as well.
She still worries about you.
Yeah, she still worries about everybody, and, I guess that never goes away as a parent. And, you try and tell her, well, at some point, you got to let people, they're older enough, they have to kind of go and figure things out, but she still worries, like, they're still, 5-year-old kid that can't take care of themselves.
Would she go on a vacation now? He said, I'll get you a ticket anywhere in the world.
I think she would, but she would still be hesitant to go. I mean, and again, I think circumstances have something to do with it. So my dad unfortunately had a stroke about I think it's about 4 months ago. And so now she's worried about, okay, well, even if I could say, all right, she's doing so much better, which thank God, but even if I said, Mom, Dad, Pop's fine, you should go, because she was actually planning to go to Florida to visit her friends, but now she's just so worried about my dad, leaving him, and just go, so she won't go. Even though we're just like, you can go, he'll be fine, even if I have to come home and just, work from home for, a few days or whatever, I can make it work. And she said, no, I'll take care of it.
There's no way she's going to leave him, right?
Right.
Has she seen much of the United States? Any of the United States?
Has she seen much? I would say not a ton. I mean, she's seen Jersey. She's not, she's traveled a little bit. I mean, she's taken some trips, I can't remember when it was, but a few, gosh, it's got to be like 10 years ago, if not longer. She took a trip to Israel. I think that was one of her big trips.
To Bethlehem?
Yeah, she got to do all of that. So, sort of a vacation religious trip for them. She's gone on a couple cruises here or there. She lived in Florida for a little bit. So So, parts of it, but not really gone out and said, hey, I'm going to go, check out the U.S. and there's a bunch of places. And she spent most of her time, like I said, either working or just praying.
What a combination. So was your mom the one that instilled in you your morals and your principles that you have today and as a parent yourself?
I think it's a combination. I think what my mom has really instilled in me is just sort of a drive to just try and do better. Because she definitely is the ambitious one. She is, when I was telling you how, she worked a lot, one of the things that I always tell people and I tell my boys just about how just insane she was in trying to just provide for her kids is that she would, so when I started working in the city, I would, I had to at 9 o'clock, and I think I took a 7 o'clock train, and I would take a 6 o'clock train home. So on my way to the train station, I would drop my mom off at work, so probably around 6:30 in the morning. I would come home, and then she would call me around 11 o'clock at night to come pick her up.
Oh, my gosh.
So she was pulling, there was a stretch probably for a good year and a half that she was working probably close to 70 hours a week, doing doubles Monday through Friday.
Now, this was to help college, pay for college and put food on the table and maintain and help her family.
This was just to pay bills. This was really just because we were already out of college, so this was just to maintain, a house, a home, and everything.
And your dad was still working?
Yeah, my dad was still working. And, this part is, I know he sort of jumped around, but at this point, my parents were separated. So they got separated for a while. And it's kind of what we'll call the dysfunctional, functional world that I sort of lived in. And that's what my friends and I always called it, because none of us had the normal sort of mom, dad, straight, everyone together sort of upbringing.
Yep.
My two best friends, one's, father passed away early, the other one never knew his dad. My parents they separated for a while and then got back together a little later in life. So in that time, she was doing all of this on her own. So
oh,
all
my
that time
gosh.
So that's why I just say, that's what she definitely instilled in me, was sort of the drive and just the, just the ability to just try and do better. And the one thing the story that I always want to tell, so right when Costco and all those stores started opening, what my mom used to do at the hospital is she used to go to Costco and buy bulk candy, like a big thing of Reese's or Hershey bars, and she said it and she would sell it in the hospital. And so what she ended up doing was she got so good, she had such a following that she started leaving them at sort of the nurses' stations on each one of the floors. And they would sell them for her, and she would come by at the end of the shift and take the money. And she did this for a while until the hospital told her she had to stop.
Oh, my gosh, she's amazing.
Yeah, so she has definitely given me that.
And then we try and tell this to our children, and they're like, yeah.
Yeah, they don't get, exactly.
I have to go get a what? Work how many hours?
Exactly, and wait, no, that's going to cut into my expert. Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. She didn't stop. She worked and worked and worked. Did you ever see her break down in sheer exhaustion? She ever show her emotions?
Oh, yeah. I mean, all the time. I mean, it was just, she just worked so much. There were just times where she would just be so tired, and I just would, we would say, it's like, why, you don't need to go to work. You already pulled the double shift. You're working 70, you're on 70 hours this week. And then she would just, realistically just be like, well, if I don't do this, how are bills going to get paid? How are things going to get done? And, every once in a while, she'd lose it a little bit, and, rightfully so.
What did it take for her to be able to leave Haiti and come to the U.S.? Did she work since she was a young child? Probably did she need a ton of money to come to the U.S., right?
Yeah, luckily, I think back then when she came, it wasn't as bad. She, just saved enough money, hopped on a plane. she met somebody through a church that, I actually, we used to call Grandma, but she was this wonderful woman that my mom had met through the church that really helped her out. And she was sort of the whole reason why everything, I think, worked out is that, she found a place for my mom to live. She helped my mom get my dad over. She just helped my mom, go to school, find a job.
Was she Haitian, this woman? Was she Haitian or American?
No, she was American. She was a, silver-haired, older, well, at the time she wasn't, I mean, that's all I can remember as.
Yeah.
Just a silver-old, I think she was Irish, woman that just sort of took to my mom and just helped us out.
Do you remember her name?
Helped her out. Yeah, it was, I can't remember her first name, but it was Mrs. Lovell, Lovell.
And she was from New Haven?
She was from New Haven, yeah.
Wow. One door opens, right? You open a door,
Yeah,
help someone open a door, and your whole life changes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I know my mom owes her a lot, and she says that all the time.
Come over and visit when she's in town. I'd love to meet her.
I definitely will.
Well, go out for a walk with her.
Exactly.
And we can catch up. Michel Jean-Pierre, otherwise known as Michael or Mike Pierre. Thank you for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure, Mike.
Well, Jackie, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time and let me tell you a little bit about my mom.
I'm Jackie Tantillo. Thanks for listening to Should Have Listened to My Mother.